Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 186 of the PK Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, emallson, and joining me, we have my co host, Anomoly.
Hello.
And we are back after another hiatus due to more holiday ish, birthday ish,
Yeah, it
family
was
ish,
family
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
stuff.
but I mean, we are in kind of that mid-patch lull. We did get 10.2.5, which we talked about 2 weeks ago. So that is out now. I
Mhm.
think the most notable part about that I have seen is just you can dragon ride everywhere now, which
Yes.
I have used on my alt doing keys. Like on my
Yes.
main, I just portal everywhere, but on my alt, I still have to fly. So it is much faster to fly with a dragon riding mount.
Yeah.
So
You can tell the old zones were not made with like dragon riding in mind with like the
yeah,
speed you can get up to. So no,
yeah.
it's been fun. Fun drive like I've liked the city flying. So like flying through like
Yeah.
trying to get through like Undercity or actually well, I'm
Eh,
Alliance now. I did Undercity once, but like doing Iron Forge stuff like that. So
Imagine having dragon riding in like old Orgrimmar, where it was like this like
oh
three
yeah,
level thing.
that would have been really nice. Yeah, yeah, no, it would have. Yeah, there've been. Oh, that would have been cool. But yeah, it's been fun in the old world, using dragon riding and getting around. So, um, but yeah, that's yeah, 10.2.5 pretty. I have to be fair on retail and interacted with none of the new systems, but I've heard some good things about the follower dungeons. So I know we
Yeah,
have a thing they did a couple changes there, but I heard some people enjoying that stuff. So
yeah.
we'll
I
see.
had meant to check that out, leveling a new character, but I didn't actually. I finished leveling my priests before Follower Dungeons came out, so I no
Gotcha.
longer have any characters in the correct level range for it.
Nice. Nice.
Um, yeah. But before we get into all of that stuff, how is your progression going, Anomaly?
We'll say good. We killed Tindral on Thursday, our second raid day this week. After some heartbreakingly close low percentage wipes on Tuesday. So I think, you play that 1% better, you see like P3, you make like one less mistake in P1 and throw away an attempt,
Yeah,
right? Like I think we killed on Tuesday, which would have been I think we would have been like US 100-ish, like, which
it's
for us would have been
crazy.
like would have our highest. It would have been our highest boss kill since Ajara
Yeah,
in EP when we were like 116, I think, at that point, or like 120. So US, of course, like world is still like 800 or whatever it ends up being.
it's like three.
Yeah, it's not that bad anymore. Um but no, yeah, it was got Tindral down early on Tuesday after about like an hour, I'd say, in there. And then 45 minutes, and then started working on Fyrak. Um, and I hate Fyrak, I think, is like the
Do
my
you like
immediate
pushing?
feedback.
Do you like pushing Dispel on cooldown for
No,
10 minutes?
no. I don't like doing it for the 30 seconds we've been wiping. I cannot imagine doing it for the rest of my
What's
day.
been wiping you at 30 seconds? And is it the group soak slams?
No, it's been so to be fair, we've gotten a little bit further, but we've basically get to so our progression was we wiped a lot just getting position right initially, but the initial hurdle was the Dream Rend. And
Okay, yeah.
then from
And then the like
there
where
it's
you do the
the second.
shuffling thing.
Yeah, we got that on lock now. We changed a couple of cooldowns around. I think when we were doing cooldowns, what I didn't realize is that it's funny. The actual group soak damage, the mythic mechanic, is not that dangerous. It's actually the wildfire after that because you go wildfire into Dream Rend movement. And so there's
Yeah,
not a lot of time to top up the raid. So
right.
basically reducing the damage of those wildfires, initial wildfire hits right before Dream Rend is more important. Dream Rend has been really honestly pretty simple for us. A couple early pulls where people are like sprinting over too quickly, but we got
Yeah.
the little shuffle down. We got a throughput cooldown like revival. I think I have my revival on the first one, which helps us with debuffs even through that. We're massing the debuffs that go out right at the start of the second Dream Rend. So like, because that's the other thing is like the damage moving isn't as bad. It's the fact that people have debuffs and just be low coming out of the wildfire, right?
Right.
But yeah, so we saw P3 once, or sorry, not P3. We saw
That would have been
intermission, first
crazy.
intermission. Yeah, no, first intermission once. Um, don't know what to do. I was supposed to hit a macro or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Um, no, we didn't really talk about it. But no, it's been, it's been a start to a progression boss. The dispel mechanic as a healer it's not exciting because there's no thought to it, right? There's literally a weak aura that glows a frame and you hit dispel when your dispel's up, and that's all you do for 10 minutes. And the debuffs come out like what, every 8 seconds, and everybody's dispel is an 8 second cooldown.
Yeah.
So it's not fun. And also like the difficult part for me right now is um like with any sort of ramp or any sort of healing I want to do, like have a GC like I don't have a GCD to just hit a dispel and then go turn right back, right? Like
Yeah.
breaking up because I'm playing, Clouded Focus and the standard build there. So
Yep.
that breakup it's just jarring in terms of like you're not used to hitting that button, and yeah. So first couple pulls, it was like people are having like 20 stacks of debuff, and like we look at the spells, and like you can see like the first like 10, like not even 10, the first like 4 dispels, everybody's on cooldown, and then like we slowly start losing it like throughout
Yeah.
the rest of P1 in terms of like dispels are every like 12 seconds now instead of every 8.
Yeah.
And there's really not a chance to catch up. And we have the revival and we have the one mask, so we only have one priest now. Um, so like yeah, progression's not it's just not a fun mechanic. Like the rest of the mechanics are cool. The movement's fun. The frontals are annoying, but playable. Or I guess the new mythic mechanic where he shoots the beams out and kills people. You can work around that stuff. But yeah, the dispel mechanic as a healer is like the most unfun thing I've ever done in a fight.
So I finished leveling my priest, right? And I've been gearing it up, and it's like 460 now. Did normal raid, all this stuff. One of the things I've noticed, every expansion I've kind of done this thing where I level up a healer and I play the healer for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I've noticed is how many more dispel mechanics there are. It's like they forgot that they had dispels for like all of Legion through Shadowlands. It's like they just forgot healers had dispels.
Yeah,
And it
this
was
this raid has been wild with it.
like one of the things. So this is Afflicted week, right? Like, and we'll actually mention some nerfs to Afflicted because they were bugged. But you do like Dawn of the Infinite is awful. If you don't have somebody in the group to help you with afflicted dispels, like the time boss is just sometimes it's not doable. And like
Yeah.
you can play around it by having like the afflicted spawn on a timer. So you can like sit and wait in front of the boss for the timer, I think. But I'm not entirely sure if the timer continues while out of combat.
Gotcha.
So one of the things that happened, like I tried doing a Galakron's Fall, and I was the only one in there that could do afflicted. Well, technically the tank could, but they weren't. The pug weren't doing so hot. And as the 2 dispels come out on the players on the time boss, afflicted spawns,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't know what you can do about that. It's like you got a couple demon hunters and a warrior and a guardian druid. It's a stellar comp, let me tell you. Lots of utility. And then they do the thing that pugs do, which is stand in the fast zone always because it makes you feel fast, even though it makes you take more damage.
Yep.
And I'm just like, I dispelled one of them, and then the other one just died because I was trying to not have us be at minus 100% haste.
Yeah.
And then the key fell apart, which is about how it goes. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's definitely this expansion, I think just in general, they've found their dispel. I think Mythic Plus always had a level of like needing dispels, but definitely
Right.
from like a raid perspective, like, and it's not even like I think every raid has had like a dispel, like something you may have had to dispel, but it had like a very specific purpose, and there's some sort of mechanic around it typically. Like this is the first where it's just like dispel doesn't like you need to dispel, but it doesn't really matter when you do it. Just like
you
hit it
just
as
have
soon as
to
you
do
can,
it
right?
constantly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that part of the at least progression right now is super unfun. But I mean I know we didn't. I guess we can talk about Tindral a little bit when. Yeah. So sorry.
I mean, I guess I've also so we're still progressing on Tindral. And I guess you mentioned the nerfs. The nerfs were announced after our last podcast, so we should actually talk
Yeah.
about what the nerfs are. Um,
Mm.
and like, I'm sorry if this explanation doesn't entirely make sense if you haven't seen the mythic version of the fight, because these nerfs are incredibly big, but may not sound like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so the first thing is that Tindral's in phase 1, he does this sequence where he casts Fire Beam twice in a row, and they've removed the first cast from that. And if you haven't done this on Mythic, what happens is that on Mythic, the fire beams have like extra beams that go out
Mhm.
as well. So this cuts that number in half, makes it significantly easier to dodge and a lot easier to play that overlap. That overlap is so bad that actually you ignore one of the mythic mechanics of the fight, which is that when you break roots without killing them, it
Yeah.
spawns a treant that pulses damage to the raid. You just ignore that. You break
Yeah.
all of your roots so that people can dodge beams, and just like hit raid cooldowns, hit healing cooldowns, and AoE down the treants before they kill you. It is a crazy overlap, and it's significantly easier now. Then they made the seeds mechanic. So in phase 2 and phase 3, spawn seeds. On heroic, you can soak as many as you want, but you take increasing damage each time. On mythic, the mechanic was that if you soaked a second seed, it instantly spawned a tree and wiped the raid.
Yep.
Which was very hard. So they changed
Yeah.
two things about it. Oh, you're
I
gonna
was just gonna say say what they changed, then I'll talk about why that's
yeah.
massive.
So what they changed is now you are physically incapable of soaking more than one. So the whole raid still has to participate. You can't like have a hunter hit immune and run over all of them or anything like that. Everybody still has to participate in soaking basically, and they reduced the number from 16, which is an important number because 4 of your players were flying, so they couldn't
Yep.
help, to 12,
Yep.
which basically lets your healers kind of not participate a huge amount.
Right, yeah. And the thing with the soaking, right, is at some point like this was a very common thing, at least that we would wipe to pre this change, is that the actual trigger for when you hit a seed, the seed actually spawned before the animation officially
Yeah,
finished. So like if you were running out and you
we had
ran out
couple of
through a
those.
puddle,
Yeah,
you could get the debuff and not realize it, and then be ready to soak the seed you're actually heading towards and wipe the raid.
yeah,
So we had a lot of people where like you actually had to like avoid all the circles and then go into them.
yeah,
And so yeah, it became a little bit it was kind of like a like you wouldn't know you're gonna wipe the raid and you'd like inadvertently do it.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean that's a huge change. And the number 2 reduction, it
yeah,
really helps too with like sort of later on in the fight, even in like phase 3, the number is still reduced, and it just again lessens the amount of people that need to sort of be able to soak seeds. So yeah, that was pretty big. So
yeah. And then the final nerf is that they reduced the number of flare bombs. This is the mythic mechanic where there are falling stars that people have to drag and
Mhm.
ride and catch. And they reduced them. It was 4 on each set. Now it's 3, and it's a specific one that they removed. Um, this was mostly annoying in that it required us to shuffle around our flare bomb assignments, because
Gotcha.
the one that they removed a different one in every phase, and so it meant that like the person that had been doing like north is now doing like north west west.
Yeah. For us, it actually, so it helped us immensely because like the other thing with this mechanic, and I don't know if you guys were doing this, but like you'd want 4 melee to go up each time.
Yes,
And so like that basically means you need 8 melee because there's 2 sets of seeds, you need 2 groups, right?
yeah,
So it was a very firm comp in terms of 8
yes,
melee DPS had to be in your raid. And so now with only 3 in each set, you essentially need, 2 less melee, and it allowed us to basically take our druid off feral, which he is, to be fair, not very good at. He doesn't play it. He's not the best at back to be able to move him back onto Boomkin, which
yeah.
he's much more like comfortable with and consistent with. So,
We've uh
um,
we've kept our comp unchanged. So we haven't touched anything. Our druid is still playing feral. It's still, and they're still doing flare bombs. We have
yeah,
somebody else that that was taken off of flare bombs and is basically playing backup for any time we need somebody to cover a flare bomb.
Yeah, I think other than his spec change, the only other thing that we did was we took our rogues out of the rotation so that
Okay.
they could stay on the boss full time. Yeah. So
That's it's one of the things we're looking at. So on Friday, we had like we went from having reached the third seeds in phase 2 and like
mhm,
wiped there. Like boss does the cast and like we had messed up dispels, so just like a couple dispels expire as he's doing the cast, kind of deal, right?
gotcha. Yeah.
Um, to 23% at like not the end of the fight. We still had about 45 seconds left of the fight. This is
hmm
there's like the roots fire beam, or it's like roots
The
dispels fire
everything
beam,
combo.
the
Yeah.
everything combo. Um, and we actually like mostly made it through that and then just kind of fell apart after.
hmm
Um, but what we looked at that is basically for where we wanted to be on boss HP at that point in the fight was we were too low. So we had more people pull off AoE for tonight. And
Okay.
one of the things that we did look at was like, should we swap the rogue for somebody else to help with boss damage? And that's still on the table. Like we might have somebody go back to doing flare bomb that we took off. Like our backup guy might swap with them basically,
Yeah.
and we might have him just glue himself to the boss and beat it up.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean the changes were and to be fair, we actually didn't talk about what I think is the biggest change. Like all these changes I think are good. They make, soaking seeds much easier. They make doing the flare bombs and like your comp specific things more easier. I'd say the fire beam cast in P1 is actually the least impactful change because for us, we didn't change what we were doing. So we still actually route clear that
Yeah,
route that comes up after it because you're already doing it. You already set up your CDs for it. So like it just
yeah,
makes it so like it's less fire beams to dodge, and you get a little bit more boss up time because you're not moving
yeah,
that entire 20 seconds. Um, but yeah, the biggest change is actually the flaming germination, which is the raid wide damage that he does when seeds go out was reduced by 25%. And so for us, anytime seeds went out, it's always a very high like HPS moment needed there, like a
yeah,
high damage raid damage moment. And all through P2, that's basically the biggest issue we had was we would have that seeds damage go out, people would be soaking, they'd have the dot from soaking a seed plus the dot from the seed spawning, and then you'd get the falling stars cast. And essentially, if you're at half HP or below during falling stars, you're dead,
you're dead.
like no matter
Yeah,
what. So we would lose a bunch of random people in P2 as we were progressing previous to these nerfs because of that. And so with this change, I think honestly, this change makes P2 probably just as easy as P1,
yeah,
even though you have the different dispels
yeah,
and to be fair, you don't have the fire beams to dodge, which I think is like the
yeah.
biggest issue.
I'll say for us, our biggest issue is dodging fire beams. Our biggest issue is still dodging fire beams. So
Gotcha.
I would call the fire beam change one of the most impactful. But
Gotcha. I can say, yeah, that's so true. I guess it depends on your rank
your
comp, yeah.
mileage may vary on that. If your raid's really good at dodging fire beams, then definitely like one of these other changes is going to be bigger. I would say like the seeds change into firebomb or fire beam change were the
Mhm.
biggest ones for us. Um, and yeah, so fingers crossed tonight we get the kill. It is going to be uh basically stressing our ability to like work out this math on boss HP without ruining our root damage. We were kind of
Yeah.
overcommitting to roots, and now I'm a little bit concerned that because we had overcommitted, right?
Mhm.
Our demon hunters and warlocks did not have the pressure on them to be solo breaking these roots nearly as much. Um, now we had all three of our hunters switch to pure single target.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so now basically all of the AoE is coming from two demon hunters, two warlocks. And we're gonna see what happens. It now
As
rests in their
a bold
hands.
strategy, yeah. Yeah. Awesome. No, yeah, I mean, I would say that it's funny, like Tindral going from Tindral uh to Fyrak, Tindral's a much better fight. Um, and so yeah, and I
Are
guess
you sure
sorry,
that's
there's
not
one
just
more.
the dispel spam talking?
I don't know. I think it is. Sorry, there was one more change on Tindral, which I think is also pretty big. In that, when you first mount up to do the dragon riding section, you actually are given like for a couple of seconds, you're given full vigor, and your vigor doesn't. You don't. It's a free
You get like
cast of all your
refunded.
abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get refunded. So basically, you can get off a Skyward Ascent, a Whirling Surge, and then a Surge forward without using any of your vigor. And what is that? 5 vigor you basically
Yeah.
get to
So
save.
that is actually a kind of noteworthy nerf because it means that in phase one, when you do like the final movement, you have the fire beams out, you can really focus a lot more on dodging fire beams, and it gives you
Hmm.
so much extra speed to get to the next platform that even if you're slow getting your feather, you can actually still land before the boss does.
Yeah, yeah. You have so much, and then in P2, like you can, like we were still doing this, but like you're the extra vigor button you get. I don't remember any of
Yeah.
this stuff, but like you can basically save all your charges for P2 and then
Yeah.
basically spam your way up there, as fast as you can. So yeah, I will say, like because we finally did the P2 intermission a bunch, I didn't realize if you hit a fireball in that intermission, you lost a vigor.
Yes. In both, if you hit a fireball, you lose
Yeah.
vigor.
I didn't realize that because like I had gotten so good in the P1 one to basically where I would be ahead of the first, like I would get the green orb
Yeah.
far right
Before the
side before
fire.
the fire, yeah, and then
Yeah.
like the next two are very easy
Yeah.
like movements, but yeah, no, that changes actually, yeah, it makes the intermissions a lot quicker and a lot more forgiving in terms of yeah positioning and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I'll
So
say like I'm the one that circles around behind the second platform or behind the third platform to pick up the green orbs for the intermission damage. And the damage from them is not really the dangerous thing for me. Like I'm a tank. It's not that big of a deal. The vigor actually makes you like take longer to do it. The vigor loss
yeah,
makes you take longer to do it. And then the supernova damage that's
yeah,
ticking from doing that will get you killed if you eat too many orbs. Uh,
yeah,
so that
exactly.
has I haven't died to it yet, but I perked to it and had to like emergency landing and death strike my way out of it.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. No,
Uh,
but that's another like undocumented change that sort of yeah was put in. I noticed it yeah as we were doing some attempts the other day. So like
yeah.
some of our first attempts. So
And then also, slight side note, I got my legendary this week, so that's
oh
nice.
nice. Yeah, our DK tank got his I guess last week. Paladin, our only rep Paladin, still doesn't have his, although I think we have two like family friends that do our heroic runs with us,
Yeah.
who has each gotten one. I think one guy has gotten it on two of his characters.
Oh my god.
So yeah,
Yeah. We have a couple alts with
been a
it.
rough go.
And I'm the first main that got it. We have now two warriors, another death knight, and a ret paladin. They're all waiting for it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's a legend. I do not like that legendary system, but yeah, it
I
is
don't
is
either.
what it
That's one
is.
thing that I want them to change for next expansion. We'll have a lot more like retro about the expansion as we get closer to the war within, but that is one thing that I think 2 tiers running, this legendary system sucks.
Yeah, yeah. For all, yeah, we don't have to get into it, but
Yeah.
like I said, playing a bunch of classic, I think the whole collect a bunch of items from the raid is a much better. If they want to put RNG in it, make it that way. Where
Yeah, and
like,
like a variable number of them, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
sometimes you
yeah,
get one, sometimes you get five, and it's fine.
yeah, yeah, and you can still like gate how long you want people to take to get something, but yeah,
Yeah.
is what it is. Well, cool. I think that's enough on nerfs and our progression.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't have a ton really to talk about game wise this week, but we do have a couple of stories that came out, a couple of topics for this week. So we're gonna run the gambit because we're gonna talk about things that aren't just retail. So I'm excited. So first up on the list is Archon, which of course is the company behind Warcraft logs. Um, has announced that they've expanded their build guide and tier lists to Wrath Classic. So if you remember, we talked about this. Gosh, we're probably 3-4 weeks ago now, where they put out sort of their, using the data from Warcraft logs, built a bunch of like the quote unquote the tier list. It's the UGGs of the world, the sub creations, right, of the world, that sort of tier list based on data. And now they've expanded that sort of viewpoint into Wrath Classic when previously it was just retail. So it's the same. I mean, you can probably tell me more than talk about it
Yeah.
more than I can. But it's basically the same thing, but for Wrath Classic instead of retail, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit more stripped down because, for example, the classic logs don't contain talent information. You can see the number of
Gotcha.
points that they had, but you can't see what talents they took. So some of
Okay.
the stuff that we do there, we just had to strip out.
Hmm.
And then as well, actually, one of the things that we had to change a decent bit is gearing. Works a lot different in classic. Um, so there are two things. One is that there are different actual items. So in retail, every item
Cool.
level of an item is like a bonus ID, but it's the same item ID. Um,
Hmm.
in Classic, it's actually a different item ID, which may not seem like a big deal, but it does mean that we had like the initial version of it was showing, you know, 3 different versions of every tier piece
Oh
in the best
yeah.
of slot list. And sometimes there were like weird bad things where like people were split between which version of the tier piece they had, but everybody that didn't have the tier piece yet was using the same thing from like a previous tier.
Gotcha.
And so it
Gotcha.
would show that as like the top item. So I am the one that went through and worked out from the game data how we merge these things together, along with stuff like TOC having 2 different versions of every item. One that's the Alliance version, one that's the Horde version. Uh, we are furthering the global Horde bias, showing the Horde versions on Archon. Um,
Un Unbelievable.
I would like to
Unbelievable.
go back at some point and like make it show like you know, Horde version slash Alliance version or something, but
Uh-huh. Yeah.
have not done that, and it's such a niche thing. Like it literally is just Trial of the Crusader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like by
I
the
don't
time
think
we get
they
back
did.
around to it, Trial of the Crusader will be the previous expansion because Cat the Classic will be out basically.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That's funny. But no, yeah, it's out there. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I checked all the because I play Hunter in Wrath, right? Checked all the Hunter stuff, and it's funny to see like at least like weapon wise, it's funny to see that like the heroic bow that you can get from Lady Death Whisper is technically the most popular. However,
Yeah,
like the Lich King bow is better in general. Just nobody like not a ton of people have killed
right.
heroic Lich King. So in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of things, so.
Yep.
Well, cool. So yeah, we got that Archons out with Wrath Classic. So definitely take a look at that. Super interesting site. We've already talked about how I feel about Archons, so we'll move forward. Not actually just specifically Archon, but tier list sites in general.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So the next up is staying with our classic friends. We're gonna move maybe slightly lower in level to Season Discovery. So phase 2 of Season Discovery. I don't know if we announced this or talked about this, but it releases February 8th in about 2 weeks from now. And they have officially confirmed that Nomergon will be the raid, the 10-man raid of phase 2. And one of the developers, Josh Greenfield, sent out a tweet around basically asking like, should they delay the release of Nomergon or not by a week? Essentially, what they did, to be fair, with the launch of the original Season Discovery is you could walk into Black Fathom Depths as soon as you hit 25, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have been 24, I don't remember. But yeah, so they asked now is like, should they delay the launch or the opening of Nomergon for like a week after the launch of SOD, the ability to like of phase 2 of SOD. So yeah, put out a tweet. I briefly skimmed it like probably about a couple hours after he tweeted this out, and literally every reply was delay. Like I
Yeah.
don't think I got to like a don't delay reply in my thing, and I probably read through like 40 or 50 replies. So I don't know if there's
It's
ever been. Or sorry.
yeah, I mean, it's that's been my experience too. Is like everybody's like just delay it. I think the only people, so like there's 2 kinds of people, right? There's the kind of people that are more casual and they're just going to level up, and when they hit 40, they will go into the raid. And for them, it doesn't matter when it's open, especially if it's on the 3-day lockout that um,
Yeah.
that BFD is on. It just doesn't matter when it's open. They're probably not hitting level 40 within that first week anyway, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. And then there's the people that go hard and are like have like a full quest log of higher level quests, so they're ready to immediately turn in to like
Yeah.
get, I don't know, a level, maybe it's only like half a level
Yeah.
immediately when the patch lands. And they also don't want to like have to, like, the people who care about, I don't know, getting
World
into,
first, Nomergon.
yeah,
Nomergon.
world first Gnomer, which is a wild sentence.
Yeah.
Will they would rather have it delayed by a week so they have time. They don't have to like freak out and level ASAP.
Yeah.
There is a degree to which it's also just like the ability to do in-game prep, I think.
Uh-huh.
Like I think BFD is different because everybody's literally starting from the same position.
Exactly. Yeah.
But with the Gnomer raid, like I was mentioning, people have quest logs full of higher level quests that they've completed but not turned in. Um, you have other prep that you can do, gear, consumables, all this stuff to prepare for it. Versus initial release, like you literally couldn't do anything. Like the best thing you could do is get in queue.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it'll remain to be seen. Like I'm assuming, like just based on the replies, they delay it. And I think it's probably the best course of action, right? It helps out everybody. For the people who do want to run world first and they now have hey, I have to have my characters ready by this point. I can farm a bunch of prebis, so they're still going to go, like you mentioned, super hard anyway for that
Yeah,
week. But now they don't have to go super hard and also then jump into the raid after however long it's going to take people to get
yeah,
from 25 to 40,
yeah.
leveling up. So, but no, I'm excited. February 8th, I might be missing raid that week.
I'm sure. I'm
Main
sure.
raid.
I'm sure your guild will be super pleased to hear that.
Well, they can replace me. It's fine.
Aren't you the
But yeah, no, yeah.
Mistweaver?
I am. I'm the only. To be fair, I'm the monk. Like,
Yeah,
I
they
don't.
can't replace you.
Not even the
They,
not even the
they
misweaver.
cannot replace you.
Yeah, no, it's fair. That's fair. Cool. And then the other thing, this was actually, to be fair, news to me. So the other piece of news, wow, I did a quick little piece on Viserio and their sort of assignment sheet. So for me, I know Viserio from like a healing, sheet perspective. So, they put out a pretty extensive like sheet that allows you to track all your healing cooldowns across every boss fight. You basically can match up boss timers to what healing cooldown you want when. It's very nice. You can copy it then into, MRT or ERT, right? Into a raid note. It's super awesome. I didn't realize this, but Viserio also puts out a general assignments sheet.
Yes.
So essentially, not for healing cooldowns, but for like certain things within a fight, he puts out a sheet where you can assign them to you can assign certain actions with it. So, like for example, on Gnarl Route, you can assign people when you do the intermission to go to certain quadrants of the room, right? And that can be, you can have like I don't know if you use icons, if you use like star, circle,
Yeah.
diamond, and triangle, and like send people to different quadrants within the room for Gnarl Route intermission, and put that easily again, same idea, put names in the list, and then easily copy that list into an MRT note and people can just see it. So super cool to check it out if you're like raid leading or doing like, any sort of like organization. Definitely check it out and maybe use it. He also does support like the weak aura packs. So like if certain weak aura packs have certain like
Special assignment stuff.
special assignments like within it,
Yeah.
like on Tindral, I know the liquid pack does freedom assignments for the third and fourth dispel, so you can
Yeah.
set up who's dispelling third and fourth, or freedoming third and fourth dispel target, so they don't get stuck out there in roots and die. So,
Yeah.
um,
I will
yeah.
say, like, we used the raid assignments one for tiers, like many tiers going. We actually
Mhm.
did not use it this tier, and that is partially because the Northern Sky Pack, like, it didn't auto generate notes at that point. So it
Mhm.
was like less reason to use it compared to previous tiers, where like we had the liquid pack like week one basically, and could use it to auto generate notes.
Yeah.
The Northern Sky one was not supported immediately, and actually if you just copy and paste the way the Northern Sky was is implemented, like some of the older WeCores from previous tiers did not do this correctly, but you can just copy. Like we have our Tindral assignment. Actually, let me just I'll pull it up. We have our Tindral assignments, and it's just like cells in a spreadsheet, and you can copy and
Yeah.
paste that into ERT, and it like puts spaces in between every cell and puts line breaks in between every row.
That's
Um,
awesome.
And so you could just like you type in like NS Freedom start, copy paste, NS Freedom end, and you're done. And that is just how we've done our raid assignments this year. And one of the nice things about that is it is made it easier for us to just do things like adjust things. where
Yeah,
the
on the
the
fly.
Viserio ones, they're amazing, they're great work, but also it's scary trying to like move things around. Like I've definitely broken like the comp checks and things, moving things around, trying to add our own like assignments that they're not even gonna have like a week or with them. It's just we want an assignment out there, and
Yeah.
have broken other assignment code by moving things around. So
Yeah, no, I think, and even on the healing side, my one gripe with the sheet is that like if you have every boss in there, the sheet takes forever to make any
oh
change.
yeah.
And like it's just because a bunch of stuff loads. And I mean, like I said, super integrated. It's really like good work. It's just I think it's just a limitation of Google Sheets and that
Yeah.
like it just takes forever to process any sort of change you do.
And
Um,
he's made it better this tier. It's a lot faster um, this year than it was last year. Last year I had to
yeah.
declare healing sheet bankruptcy. It got so bad that I just like trashed that sheet and made a new one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. We have a different problem with the healing sheet, but my biggest one right now is that it takes forever to load. Our problem also is that like we've been using it for so many tiers now that some of our healers will say go on autopilot. And so they
Mhm.
literally will just hit their cooldown whenever the timer says. And like it works great for like typically the first phase stuff, but like as you get later into the fight, like the timer, like they might hit like Aura Master like 3 seconds late because that's when their weak aura tells them they hit it, and the damage happened 3 seconds earlier. And you're just like, dude.
Yeah.
So we may be retiring our use of the sheet, at least in terms of um,
Well,
like
that's like a fix the timer issue because you I don't know if you've gotten into this, but you can edit the timers. So if the timers are a little bit off, you can go in and fix them. And I've had to do that a
yeah,
couple of times early on in the tier, but often he just Viserio releases new versions of the sheets. So that's the other thing is making sure you're on the latest version. But it's
my problem then is like it's me doing it, and I just am like, just at this point, it's probably just easier to be like, this is you hit your like this ability happens around this time, hit AM for that, right? Or
yeah.
hit rewind, whatever the end of the cooldown is,
I
and
don't
then
know.
like learn that way. So
Yeah. I mean, I could say that like our Fyrax CDs for tonight are going to be very bare bones. It's going to be like every cooldown, it's just slam it
yeah,
in
that's
phase
what we were
one.
doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just live and see it, and we'll see. We may not get a ton of time on Fyrax. I am hopeful. Like the other thing about our Tindral, right, is we were doing great. We had like multiple phase three pulls in a row. It was great, and then we just absolutely backslid started wiping. A minute into the
yeah,
fight again, for like the last
yeah.
30
It's
minutes.
it's it's yeah, it's super swingy that
Yeah,
fight. So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
well, cool. Yeah, so the sheet's out there. The assignment sheet that was new to me. I didn't realize that was a thing. So definitely check it out. But healing cooldown sheet, like I said, really robust. Just some growing pains in terms of using it. I'd say. Um, real quick, one other quick note, and then we can get into sort of I think the hotfix topic around Afflicted, which we really want to get into was Blizzard did buff follower dungeon experience. Um,
A lot,
so
a
a
lot.
lot actually.
Yeah,
So yeah, so previously throughout PTR testing, XP was reduced by 20% per follower. So if you went into the dungeon, with 3 friends and you had 1 follower coming, so it was 4 players, 1 follower, the XP you'd get in that dungeon was reduced by 20%. And it would increase for every follower you had. So if you're going there solo, you had an 80% XP reduction. Now on live, each follower only adds or only reduces XP gain by 5%. Meaning if you go in there solo, previous 80% reduction, now only a 20% reduction.
yeah.
Which means I mean, honestly, solo follower dungeons might be the quickest way to level. Like,
I mean, so within Dragonflight, dungeons are in general slower than questing. Actually,
mhm,
if you even like if you don't have a group, if you have a group, you can probably do it faster. Um,
right.
and obviously, like I'm not talking about the boosting stuff. Those are completely separate. Like I'm talking like you're a solo player, not paying somebody hundreds of thousands of gold to boost you. Um,
Hmm.
questing is faster. So I don't think that follower dungeons are going to take that crown from them, but they are going to probably make it faster for DPS because of queue times.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's true.
like you're paying an XP penalty, but no queue time.
Yeah, so you get right in there.
So if you do
Yeah.
want to just spam some dungeons, like this lets you do it.
Yeah, put in an audiobook, turn on a TV show, and just chill. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
That's fair.
XP reduction is like they want you still to do to queue for regular dungeons.
Hmm.
Um, I actually haven't checked. Like maybe you can queue for follower dungeons and also regular dungeons at the same time, and like do a regular dungeon while in queue, which would be cool. Or do a follower dungeon while in queue for the regular dungeon, which would be cool. Um,
Yeah, I
I
haven't
don't know
messed
if you
around with the
can.
system too much, so
Like I said, I finished leveling my priest before this came out, so I have not actually tried it yet.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, no, definitely a buff to follower dungeons, at least in terms of the XP gain. So, cool. And then I think, so moving on, Blizzard made or I guess we were talking about it earlier. It is Afflicted week this week. And there have been a couple of bugs with Afflicted that I think Blizzard now are all but cleaned up. But just talk about it a little bit. The main bug I'll say was that with 10.2.5 release, Afflicted essentially was the Afflicted mobs themselves were essentially tagged as players, which you might not think is a big deal, but it basically makes them valid targets for a bunch of things. So that would be things like I think the example Wowhead gives is the augmentation buffs can be placed onto afflicted mobs, which basically takes one away from her group and places one on the afflicted mob, which is an issue. Um, it also means that the afflicted mobs can be targets, valid targets of certain boss mechanics, which, depending on the boss, can be a great thing or a not so great thing. So they give a couple of examples in the Wowhead post, but things like in Ataldazar, Razan's pursuit and devour, basically his or the dinosaurs like fixate mechanic can be targeted on an afflicted mob, which would be great because you
Then
don't
you
have to
don't have
run
to do
in
it.
his grace. Yeah. However, like the tainted blood from the priestess boss could also target the afflicted mob, which means she's healing a little bit because the afflicted mob isn't going to run over to one of those pools and collect it. So you get a little bit of health there, and then Solren from the last boss, Yamza, could also target afflicted mobs, which means if you didn't kill the little mob that spawns, it will get to the boss and be a fun
Yeah,
little buff on the boss.
and importantly, like
So
you can't control where the afflicted is, right? Like it could be
exactly.
right next to the boss. It could be inside the boss,
Hmm.
and spawn a soul run dad and just instantly wipe your group. So that's not great. They did hotfix this. Uh, they actually gave the most precise timestamp I've ever seen in a hotfix.
Yeah.
11:09 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
Crazy precision. They
Yeah.
deploy the hotfix that makes it so that they are no longer treated as players, which should both fix the issues with boss mechanics and the issues with augmentation and other like player abilities targeting them as players. Because like these abilities
Exactly.
already don't target pets, right?
Yeah.
So it's like clearly not.
A flag was
Yeah,
missing somewhere,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
um, so yeah, no, yeah, they definitely, excuse me, definitely was an issue, which should now be fixed. So have fun in your afflicted keys and that godforsaken affix.
It's bad.
Honestly, it's so annoying, so annoying.
It's it varies so widely between completely free. Like if you have a shaman, it's just a joke.
Yeah.
And just like the worst thing ever. And like some of it varies based on your composition, and some of it varies based on the dungeon. Like again, Galakrond's Fault, absolutely awful.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like that same
Yeah.
one I mentioned earlier, like I had to let the I messed up and let the tanks sit with their like triple damage taken debuff for an extra 8 seconds because I dispelled the afflicted right
Yeah.
before the
Right.
mechanic
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. That's the rough part about it. That's the other thing that I would say like healing when dispels are such an integral part. Like I think it's a good thing to do, but like it also like as a healer you have to basically track so many things in the air, right?
Yeah.
Like Firac is just it's like remembering to dispel and like my raid leader love the dude to death, but sometimes he's like doesn't the thing on your frame just glow like on your raid frames doesn't it just glow and I'm like yeah but like I'm also trying to dodge a frontal like trying to make sure my ramp's set up, and then also moving to soak something. Like it's not like I'm staring at my frames waiting for a dispel, and I'm like, oh, nothing else is going on. So
Yeah.
no, it dispels are, and maybe I'm gonna hate Fire Act progression. I hope it's like a 100 pull boss. They start nerfing it like next week and be out of there soon.
What do we have
So
for Hall of Fame? That's actually like
I have no,
side topic. What do we have for Hall of Fame? Let's
in
see.
Fire Act. I think so. We were
130 kills, 131
yeah,
kills.
I was gonna say about 130ish because we were like 180ish for fire. Or no, we were 3 something for Fire Act
Yeah.
World. So
I I don't know if you looked at the Tindral like chart on prog stats after the nerf. It's like a straight line.
I haven't, but I can imagine. Yeah, it's like the Halandris nerf, right?
Yeah.
It's like literally just like yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
so yeah, that's fun. We also on Tuesday are getting buffs across a bunch of classes. None for Brewmaster. And
Monk
that
is yeah, none for Monk actually. So
none
nothing
for
for
Monk.
Windwalkers
They did just
or
like buff Windwalker like 3 times.
yeah.
Um
Is that enough though? It's not a real class anyway, so probably fine. Um, kidding, kidding, Windwalker friends. Yeah, nothing for Monk in here. It kind of runs the gambit though. I mean, like there's healing, buffs in here, a bunch of damage buffs. Shadow Priest getting some love. I don't know if it's enough. We actually lost our only Shadow Priest.
oof.
So it's a Shadow Priest. Um, basically a ranged Windwalker. Um, so yeah, but I mean, Rhett's getting buffed. Healing wise, like Holy's getting a ton of buffs, or sorry, Holy Priest getting a ton of buffs. Resto Shaman getting some solid buffs, and then Resto Druid seeing a lot of mana changes more than anything. So nothing in
Yeah.
terms of like healing increases, but a lot of mana changes over at Resto Druid time.
I wonder if this is
Um,
a prelude to them like nerfing that stupid trinket from Blackrook Hold.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, I
That
don't.
right now that one kind of
Maybe.
carries their mana.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I guess maybe they're getting ready for season 4.
Yeah.
More than anything. So with that, yeah, potentially. And then yeah, DPS wise, sort of some buffs across the board for pretty much almost every class. Like I said, other than monk, and I think I don't see mages on this list either.
Yeah. No
Well, and
mage,
evoker,
no
and no
mage, no
evoker.
warlock, no evoker. You know, the
I
good
mean,
ones don't
yeah,
get anything. Um,
yeah, hero classes.
I mean, like every DK spec got buffed. The blood ones I was not expecting, but like it extra armor, less physical
Nice.
damage taken. Protection warriors getting a buff, extra ignore pain, a little bit more HP, and yeah, I mean it's just a lot of buffs. I think people in my guild were asking like, where are the nerfs? Like obviously some things like Mistweaver are
Yeah,
overperforming. Um, where's the nerfs? And I think the answer is they're not going to nerf anything until Hall of Fame because you can imagine like being mid Fire Act prog.
oh yeah,
And
dude.
like if they take Mistweaver or, Protection Paladin or whatever down a peg, what do you do?
Yeah,
So they're gonna probably wait, I think, until Hall of Fame is closed, and then they will nerf Firac and also several classes.
yeah. Go through another round of tuning. Yeah, I could see that being the case. Um, Yeah, I'm interested to see like how our fire act progression goes because like our P1 stuff is the movement too in P1 of fire act is like kind of specific,
Yeah,
and it's
we have
super like
we have a spreadsheet that somebody posted. Oh, which I don't know if you guys have this spreadsheet. Guild called Refined posted their spreadsheet for it, and it's
oh
super
really?
detailed.
I don't I bet our
So
raid leaders have looked at it, but yeah,
probably
they didn't post it in general. No, yeah, it's just like the movement. Oh yeah, no, this is our. I think they put all this into like a raid plan for us,
gotcha. Yeah,
so we knew where
I think
we.
they have like
Yeah, that's what.
a rate plan up here, but yeah, it's very precise. You have like specific ones that you have to go to,
Yeah,
in order to layer all the fire puddles that get put out correctly, in order to not either screw yourself over in phase one or run out of space. If any of these fire puddles reach the tree, you instantly wipe.
yeah. Well, yeah, specifically the tree roots that are jutting out.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
we had it's someone like drop a fire puddle like on a random wipe, like in the basically like directly behind fire rack, like against
Yeah,
the wall.
yeah.
and you're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, we had a buyer do that in one of our heroic sales. They were just
Nice.
like AFK next to a tree root, and they got targeted by it,
Oh, no.
and it just like
Yeah.
instantly wiped us. At least it was a
Yeah.
quick wipe, right? Like it was not super deep into the fight, and we were able to be like, okay, can't do that. You're going to
Yeah.
like please tag the boss and jump off. But yeah,
Yeah. Our biggest thing now is like, that's again, we can talk about fire maybe a little bit since we have some time, but there's a ton of private auras on this fight.
yeah,
So like everything's a private aura. So the new like mythic soaks are private auras, and like you kind of need, to basically place them all next to each other near the fire in a line, and like make sure you're not overlapping enough. So like getting that movement right has been not difficult, but like annoying, right? Where like two people try and make the same move and they just end up on top of each other, which of course is fine. In some cases, it kills a bunch of people, but like is fine. But then it also spawns an extra fire puddle like outside the lineup you want,
yeah,
and then like you end up with like people just eventually the fire hits the root. So
yeah,
yeah, it's been that fight will be fun to. I'll say fun. It'll be interesting to progress on. The
yeah.
dispel piece is honestly going to be the most annoying thing, I'll say.
Yeah.
It's annoying
I
on heroic.
yeah.
So like
Which they nerfed it significantly. Like I healed Fire Act for well, not the first time. I technically
yeah.
have a Mistweaver kill on it. But I didn't
Ooh,
really heal. I mostly just was a dispel bot and pushed Rising Sun Kick. Like
nice.
before they nerfed the amount of dispels, like you didn't need an extra healer. You needed an extra dispel.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think
so
that has to be one of the change. Like when they start to look at nerfing that fight on Mythic, like I think the dispel change would also go in there. Like
yeah,
either lessen the time that it goes out, or like I don't think they lessen the number because it's only 4 on Mythic, right?
yeah.
So
They might reduce the rate that it gains stacks, so it's less punishing to delay your dispel a little bit.
yeah, I mean, maybe. I think the only problem with, I mean, that definitely makes sense in terms of like lessening the danger of the debuff, but like you would still have the debuff ticking. So like like delaying it even a
Yeah,
bit still puts you behind. So
yeah,
um I mean the big change is like All Flame doesn't go on the whole rate at the end of phase
yeah,
1, right? Anymore,
yeah.
which is like
That
that way you can throw
was
revival
stupid.
early.
It was the most bizarre like pump
It
check
is
they've done in a while. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of blood DK comp checks, for lack of a better word. Like you have mass
yeah,
grip or you don't, so you must have a blood DK, and that comes up quite a bit because they just have a bunch of ads spawn, and it's massively easier to deal with them if they're all stacked. So
exactly.
that comes up over and over again. Um, but it's a little bit more. It's a little bit less shoehorned because you can do other things. You can use Nox. You can just straight up not group them. Like you don't
Yeah.
need a blood decay for the grouping on Tindral, for example. Mass grip is really nice for doing it, but you can just hit raid CDs and like stack up the roots and just blender
Like
the
AO, yeah.
mobs and just
AoE it down,
AoE.
yeah.
And things like so you can definitely like work around not having a one sun time. You could not work around the entire raid getting a magic debuff that was
Yeah.
going to murder them. Like you
If you
just
didn't dispel it
and
like
there's
within
only
like yeah.
one thing in the game that can deal with it.
Yeah. Well, one single player and one single ability that can, but you could like stack like 5 priests and just mass for 4 priests, just mass spell array.
And yeah,
Which
no,
is yeah, it's just yeah, it's stupid. So I mean that's definitely a good change. But no, we'll see. I mean, maybe I'll sing a different tune next week. Maybe we'll hopefully make some progression into P2, and maybe it'll be a little bit easier. Not excited about healing massive triads the entirety of P2, but we'll see how that goes.
yeah.
I love healing ads. I love healing things without raid frames. That's going to
Somebody,
be a lot of fun too. Yeah, this
yeah.
fight's literally got. Honestly, you know what this fight's missing? A line of sight mechanic, and then it would legit be like it would be the worst mechanics I believe are ever put in the game,
All in
all
one
rolled
place.
into a single fight.
Yeah,
Line of sight, healing something that doesn't have a frame to heal off of, and just dispelling on cooldown.
yeah. You Dality in chat like earlier while we were talking about Afflicted was like, please
Yeah.
frames, give me frames, and I can empathize. I have let some Afflicted go off this week because I could not figure out where the hell they were.
Oh yeah, no, it's yeah. And
Also, fun way to
even when they
learn
give you
which walls
frames,
are actually line of sight.
yeah, be a healer. God. Ugh. They're even like it's funny, even the Laradar ads, which have frames, are
Yeah,
frustrating because the frame like they basically have a frame for the mob when it's damaging, and then they have a different frame that shows up when you heal it. And the
yeah,
frames, like there's a delay for as those frames are destroyed and then recreated, right?
yeah,
Essentially in the UI. So
yeah,
like even then it's almost easier to like just get in the habit of healing the thing on the ground
yeah.
versus or like, you know, versus
That's
waiting for the
basically how
frame.
I was doing it. Like
Oh,
I
dude.
mouse over it and do that, and like it mostly works. But then there's like some I do a lot of the click casting stuff,
Yeah.
and that doesn't work super well with like nameplates.
No. Or like, yeah, nameplates or like you just get a random player that like runs across where the ad
Yeah,
is, and then
yeah,
like you just all your healing gets dumped to that one player. You're like,
yep,
awesome. Like,
yep.
hate my life. So yeah, life of a healer. It's great. Love this. Love being a healer. It's an awesome role to have in a raid. Um, but yeah. I think that's everything. Shorter episode today, but I think that's
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. We like you said at the front, not a lot of news. Like the biggest news for us was absolutely the Tindral nerfs. Like
Yeah.
unbelievable the degree to which that has changed the fight. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess not unbelievable. Very believable if you've done the fight. That those
Yeah.
nerfs had a huge impact, but like it's a wild fight. Absolutely wild fight. And I think actually, so there's a really interesting thing like Halandris. They kind of ruined the fight. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
They kind of ruined Halandris when they nerfed it that way. Specifically the like HP nerf. Um
Hmm.
made it so that you kind of skipped a lot of mechanics. And so, we went from like making it through every phase and like doing every phase. And we were at we were at phase 3, hadn't
Hmm.
really progressed it. Kind of similar position to Tindral. And then the HP nerf just meant that we like went to the point that we were skipping half of phase 1 and half of phase 2.
Yeah.
And simply like again, the jailer. When they gutted the jailer, it just like you went from having like this long and detailed dance through the later phases, and the later phases are the better part of the jailer by like a lot.
Oh,
Uh,
1000%. Yes. Agreed.
uh, and it made it like okay, you just do phase 1 for like 3 minutes, and then rapid fire the next 3 phases and get out of every one of them in like 30 seconds to a minute,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then the
Yeah.
fight's over. And it
Yeah, it's like
like
make sure you do the one frontal soak right
yeah,
right at the end, right? And then the
yeah,
boss dies. And like
yeah,
P3 doesn't exist.
yeah. P3 doesn't exist. P2 barely exists. Like we
Yeah.
on our like reclears of that, we were doing like 3 of the beams instead of 4 or something. Like we were skipping one, and as we got more geared, and as we hit season 4 especially, it got a lot more pronounced. We just
Yeah.
like would do like the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. It's yeah, no, the but I think the nerfs
Control
on
nerfs are
Tindral
not
though.
like that. Yeah.
No, I think it definitely it eases up your I still think it eases up your P2 progression
Yeah.
in terms of like you're more consistently getting through P2. Um
Yeah.
and then lets you see P3. P3 still just as I don't think P3's I mean there's less damage right from the seeds
Yeah.
and stuff like that. There's less seeds to soak. So like that's definitely makes it easier, but not it's not like if you were like if you were getting consistently to like the start of P3, you're now going to kill it. It's
Yeah.
like you still have to learn P3
Yeah.
and get through
Yeah.
it.
And the
Um,
overall pacing of the fight is still the same. It's just like
yeah,
it's it's less punishing. And I
yeah,
think that's like I don't know how they would have done this to Halandris, right? There is no like seeds mechanic equivalent that they could just like kind of
yeah,
slam the nerf button on and make the fight easier without destroying the pacing. But like that fight was not the same.
yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it was funny. We had I think on Halandris we got there. I think the week before the orb nerf, right? Which is like the first big one, and
Yeah,
like that was a night and day change. So like that was like the massive change I'd say like for if you were a guild that was like progressing like late into that fight when that nerf came in, that was probably extremely jarring in terms of like
yeah,
not having to pass like 4 times doing the run and only having to do it like once or twice was like
yeah,
such a major change. So
yeah,
um but yeah, no, yeah, it's Tindral nerfs. I think they're solid. Sort of gets a couple more guilds through that, and then yeah, then you get to do Fire Act where your healers will hate themselves. So yeah, it's great, great boss, great times.
yeah. I think that is going to bring us to the end of the episode today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to support it and the other work that we do over at the Peak of Serenity, you can do that over on our Patreon at patreon.com/peakofserenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. It is the best place to shitpost about fire active spells.
And soon to be the best place to talk about F1.
Soon
4
to
more
be.
weeks.
Soon
4
to
more
be.
weeks.
But yeah, that is going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.